Sure, here's a true crime story that still sends shivers down the spine of many people. The Hinterkaifeck murders. One of the most chilling unsolved true crime cases in history is the story of the Hinterkaifeck murders. In 1922, a family of 6 was brutally murdered on their remote farm in Germany. The case remains one of the most mysterious and haunting in the world of crime. Hinterkaifeck was a secluded farmstead located about 70 kilometers north of Munich, isolated deep in the Bavarian woods. The Gruber family, Andreas, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and their 2 grandchildren, as well as a maid named Maria, lived there, along with their livestock. In March 1922, things took a strange turn. On the 31st of March, neighbors noticed the family had failed to attend church, which was unusual since the Grubers were known to be regular churchgoers. No one had seen them for several days. Worried, the neighbors decided to check on them. When they arrived at the farm, they were greeted by eerie silence. There was no sign of the family, but the animals on the property were cared for, their food and water replenished as if someone had been tending to them. The door to the house was unlocked, and what they found inside was beyond horrific. Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and the 2 grandchildren were all found dead in their home. They had been brutally murdered with a pickaxe. Maria, the maid, was also discovered dead in her room. The crime scene suggested the murders had been carried out in a methodical, cold-blooded way. The killers had seemingly spent several days in the house, hiding in the attic and moving around the property, without anyone noticing. Evidence suggested the killer had even eaten meals in the house, and possibly slept in the attic while the family was still alive. What made this case even more bizarre was the strange behavior surrounding the crime. The family had reported hearing strange noises and footsteps in the house in the days leading up to the murders. Andreas Gruber even told a neighbor that he had found footprints in the snow leading to the house, but none leading away from it. He also mentioned hearing sounds in the attic, but found nothing when he searched. Despite the terrifying atmosphere, the murders were not immediately discovered. The killers seemed to be living on the property after committing the crime, possibly even hiding in the attic, as no one had seen anything suspicious during the days following the murders. The neighbors began to worry when no one had heard from the family in several days, and finally they contacted the authorities. The investigation was hampered by the isolation of the farm, and a strange set of circumstances only deepened the mystery. The police were unable to find any fingerprints or clear evidence of the killer's identity. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the victims may have known their killer. As the investigation dragged on, several theories emerged. The maid, Maria, was considered a suspect because she was the last person to have been seen alive with the family. However, she was found dead in her room, making it unlikely that she was the killer. Andreas Gruber's son, who had been estranged from the family, was another suspect. Some believed he had a motive tied to the inheritance, but he had an alibi and was ruled out as the killer. The possibility of a local or a passing stranger was considered. Some suggested that the killer had been someone familiar with the farm's routine, using the isolation to their advantage. Even today, no one knows for certain who committed the Hinterkaifeck murders. Despite investigations, suspects, and theories, the crime remains unsolved, and the farmstead itself has become infamous as a location of eerie, tragic history. Some claim that the property is still haunted, and the strange noises heard by the Grubers before their deaths, footsteps in the attic, were not just the ramblings of an anxious mind, but perhaps a sinister presence that had been waiting for the right moment to strike. It's one of those cases where the mystery of the killer's identity and the gruesome nature of the crime still haunt many who study it. The isolated, remote location, the strange events surrounding the murders, and the fact that the killers could have spent days in the house without being caught, create an unsettling narrative that lingers to this day.